I was actually pinned between an RV and a truck. Instead of hitting forward, the person hit reverse. And
Oh,
I was so lucky because where my head got, and you could see almost an imprint like a cartoon, a head against a panel that was flexible, a storage panel in the RV at the front. Had it been a foot higher, it would have been squished, but it didn't. It caved in, and from that point, I don't remember any. I was in the ERC in
oh, I'm so sorry that happened.
hospital. Well, we were RVing out by near Jackson, Michigan. It was near hunting season, and the person, it wasn't paying attention, and ran me into my RV by my head, trying to back what they call a fifth wheel into a truck. And from that point on, it was lights out. When the lights did come back on, I found that I knew what I wanted to say, but I couldn't say it. And you're talking about a guy that's been in the car business his whole life and worked at a credit union before that for 5 years. So I understood financing well. But after that, I didn't understand how to say my own name. So they put stair glides up. I wasn't able to walk correctly. I went through a lot of therapy. 2.5 years of speech therapy, cognitive therapy, physical therapy, you name it, I did it. But that's another job in itself. You have to work at it. You have to want it to get better. And then slowly, and the doctor did say you have to work with, several doctors, you have to work with us. You have to put in the work. Well, I did. And now here I am able to hold a coherent conversation with all of you. Traumatic brain injury, and insurance benefits ran out, and I didn't make the best decisions during that time because I was heavily medicated.
Get you in that situation. You said you had an accident?
Yeah, I was hit by a car.
And that's really what caused the financial issues that we helped.
The benefits ran out, and my thought process, I ordered online a TV and didn't recall doing it at all. So, I mean, I was gone as far as memory, everything. I guess we're out of the woods insofar as best as we could hope for. Nothing's perfect. I'm not, 100%. I'm not able to go run around the block. But then again, I am 65 too. So, that makes a difference. But most of it was medical. Well, all of it was medical. It was a surprising shock, a life changer. So I guess what I'm saying is I'm grateful that there was some not recourse, but a way for me to deal with the financial burdens that came with it once the benefits ran out. And it was like, wow, here I am, the finance man, and now I can't find a dime, not really. I had to do what I had to do. And it's a little bit humble, it's humiliating in a way, but you know what? It's not that bad. I used to finance cars for people that were in 13s. And what my experience was that a lot of bankruptcy attorneys wouldn't even answer the phone or do their due diligence. Sometimes they couldn't even get their attorney to respond back, which to me was, like, wow, I'm glad I'm not there, that really stinks. Several of my customers would say that, hey, my attorney won't get back with me, or they won't call me back. I've never had that happen with Peggy, Jennifer, Tim, Larry, anybody. So I know I tripped over a gold brick because I had experience with dealing with 13s. And I understand that some of the attorneys, once they got you signed up, won't follow up, and it's an ongoing process. In my case, it was 3 years, and it was 3 years. It was hard. It still is hard. It's tough. Didn't want to do it, but I found myself on the other side of the table, on the other side of my customers. I had good representation, and was always each situation or any questions that I had, and there were many, that I almost had a back line, and I always got called back, always. So I'll say that as gospel.
Well, it's always helpful to have clients who are interested and involved in their case. It does make our lives easier too.
You do need representation because you can't just, you're under guidelines under a 13, and you have to adhere to those guidelines. And that's all there is to it. But if your attorney doesn't respond, you're in trouble. And I never had that happen. Not once.
So you got a super interesting perspective, because you have helped people that are filing for Chapter 13 keep their cars or get a new car. And then you yourself, you already knew about the trouble people had getting an attorney to call back. And now that you needed an attorney for a similar situation, you found an amazing attorneys and a team in HS&A, because they really care and they always get back and make sure that you are walked through the process.
Absolutely. Here's how much they care.
Life that happened, and nobody expects to get hit by a truck,
No.
squashed within an RV and then have 2 years of rehab. It's amazing that you have such a wonderful, positive attitude, and that you've made the progress that you have. And Peggy, if I could ask you a quick question. When Mitch came to you, how did you kind of piece all this together for him? I mean, you knew he had a lot of medical bills,
Right.
and some financial issues that weren't his fault. What did you do to assess that he needed a Chapter 13 versus a Chapter 7, for example?
Sure. In Mitch's specific instance, his income had dropped substantially, and he was having problems dealing with all the medical bills that had accumulated over the period of time. And as he kind of touched base, because of the head injury and the other issues he was having because of medication he was on, there was a little bit of a spending issue there, because he wasn't remembering what he was doing. So when we evaluated his situation, although his income had dropped substantially, because of his previous background, he had done such a great job building the equity in his home. We determined that he needed to file a Chapter 13 bankruptcy so he was able to keep his home and not lose it in a Chapter 7 bankruptcy. Because of the amount of equity him and Mary had worked over the years building up and doing all the right things, which Mitch had done. He had done all the right things financially until this unfortunate accident occurred. Because of that, the amount of equity he had built up in his home, if he had filed a Chapter 7, there was a good chance the trustee could have sold his home out from underneath him. And obviously that is not what we want for him or any of our clients. We wanted to make sure to secure his assets. So we were able to put Mitch in a very small Chapter 13 repayment plan so he could keep his home, be able to afford his monthly bills, and be able to deal with all the medical bills and the other outstanding credit cards and things like that over a 3-year period.
Oh, I mean, and that is wonderful. And it's great to have somebody that can look at the situation and see which strategy is really going to work, for you in the future. And so, Mitch, if you could just let us know, how was the process? I know you said it took 2 years to get it going, or was that a few years to pay off?
Well, we'll start with this. My head was so in I can't find the words, but so messed up that I had Peggy show up at the first appointment at 11 o'clock, not being able to really grasp that it was 12 o'clock because there were 2 numbers on a piece of paper for 2 times. So Peggy showed up an hour early and was very, for lack of better word, just cool about it. She didn't say, you idiot, you can't you tell 11 from 12 o'clock? So she had to hang around the office, and I know her time's valuable. And when we were done with it, Mary and I walked out the door and said, wow, she is very, very nice. And not everyone's like that. It's more about, let's get down to business. You just wasted an hour of my time, She was very, very, very nice.
They're very down-to-earth people over at HS&A.
So that was like Mayday right there. He can't tell time. um, from there, it was a smooth process. I think we were there a half hour and went through the hoops that are part of the process, and then we went to a meeting of creditors, which was another no-brainer. I could remember the experience was very simplified. She did the work. She got it done. Saved my home, and that was something that I really should have touched on from the beginning of this conversation, because that was what I came in for. I was shaking like the old expression, and people that remember, shaking like Don Knotts.
I do remember Don Knotts.
From you pull out his gun, he'd be shaking. I was rattled. And she unrattled me between Tim, everybody there. Yeah, we had built a significant amount back then. And I guess I'm fortunate that I didn't pay it off. I wasn't able to. But I was doing what I was supposed to do. That's what I felt. But again, I wasn't 100% up here. I think I've made progress. I know I have in the last couple of years in my speech and in my being able to have conversations with people and explain recall conversations. So I'm grateful. That's where I think I started out.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. Let me ask Peggy a quick question. Bankruptcy, and also just something like an accident, like what's happened to Mitch. Can you, just tell me a little bit about, were those medical bills taken away in Chapter 13? I know certain things are taken away and certain things are left.
Right. Medical bills are treated such as unsecured debts, like you pay into credit card bills. Like, so medical bills get put into a Chapter 13 just like the rest of your unsecured debt, credit cards, medical bills, personal loans, auto deficiencies, apartment deficiencies, like that. They just get paid pennies on the dollar or percentage of what they're owed based on each individual's ability to repay. Due to Mitch's reduced income because of the accident, he wasn't working. So our assistance was successful for the accident. His income had reduced so much that there was no way for him to pay his medical bills in full. So we were able to put them in a Chapter 13 plan based upon his personal income and expenses and his monthly budget. We were able to come up with a repayment plan that he could afford. So yes, medical bills are anything that's not paid over the Chapter 13 period is then wiped out, discharged, or forgiven when he's done. Because it's just Chapter 13 is really based on the person's specific ability to repay. So what Mitch can repay in Chapter 13 and what the next client is totally different. So it's an individualized thing. That's why we need to sit down, which we did with Mitch and I when we first came in, really look at their finances, their budget, what's going on in their life, and get the determination of what the most financial sense for them and everything.
That's fantastic. So if you have, a certain lifestyle that you're living, and then something happens to your job or something happens to you, but you can't make that same amount of money and live that lifestyle, you can almost right size your bills and your living by bringing those prices down to what you can afford. And certainly it's huge that he was able to save that equity in the house because, you're right, we looked at that off over so many years and they take care like for you before the process? Were you like going, I know that you were kind of, your mind was all over the place because of the drugs
Right.
you were on and going, you're just trying to remain positive to help yourself physically and help yourself get back to speaking properly. You had a lot of things going on that you never expected to have to go to, and you're so positive about it. How stressed out were you before you met Peggy? And then what was it like after she explained the process and how they were going to help you fix things?
My income went down 700%. I mean, from really, really good income where you can go to Hawaii, Belize, and do cool things and live the life. To have that lifestyle that I worked for. And I hired Mary as my assistant. I just needed some help. And then she ended up, Mary's my wife, she ended up learning the business too. So she got a taste of what it's like. She was like actually blown away to see what people go through when they have a devastating change. What life was like was pandemic, almost similar to what we're watching on TV now with COVID and with the unrest, civil unrest. I felt like my world was, and what I didn't feel. I knew this much, that this is not good. That I don't think I'm going to be able to survive this. And pretty much had given up. And that's where my wife took charge. And thank God she had a few years of experience with me in helping people with situations. There's truth to that. Good people or bad things happen to good people. And that was our philosophy in what we did in the car business. So she took how I felt was night and day. After walking out of the bankruptcy court, well, actually after talking with Peggy and Tim both, and Larry, but Peggy was there. It was like a new lease on life because I'm flexible. I know how to, stay home. I learned that the hard way because I had to, because I couldn't go anywhere really, except without Mary driving me, and I still not supposed to drive. So, but you deal with it. But I felt better. I felt relieved. I had that much of a presence of mind to know that, okay, we don't have to live in a tent. We don't have to go knock on my kid's door. And both of them are successful in Florida. They've been with me through this all the way. One of them just amazed me. He came out of nowhere and made his mark in life. And then we have another son here, and my daughter. We paid for college tuition prior to this happening. So we were able to at least get that. Things could have been so worse. You get to a point where you're almost, and I don't want to say the word because I don't want anybody coming and locking me up, but you're almost suicidal. You're like, wow, this is the end. I mean, there were times in my mind when I could actually have pop-ups like on a computer, focus, like, wow, I'm in deep. There's no way out. Well, there was a way out, and there is a way out, but you just have to do what you have to do. Okay, no trips to Belize, no trips to here or there. Okay, fine. Someday we want to make our retirement nest. Someday in the near future, as near as we can possibly do this. We want to get to Florida and start over, start a new life and retire out and go on to the abyss. Take me to the ocean.
What I love about you, Mitch, is that not only did you overcome all of these, physical and mental issues, but even like losing your job and your life changing the way it has. And you're right, a lot of people's lives have changed during this pandemic, but I still think that it's only a fraction of what you went through because, you almost lose your identity sometimes when you lose your job and something where you really enjoyed for years. And so when you say that, sometimes, you might feel suicidal, it was the perfect storm for you. And you had such a, wonderful attitude and
Thank you.
absolutely it helps to have, you know, someone like Peggy that can say, hey, you know what, this is a problem, but there are solutions and here are the options. And I'm just so happy that you guys found each other, honestly, because
Me too.
she's very positive and you're very positive, and it was a huge problem. But it sounds like, you know, you've got future plans now, and, you know, sure, you're still working through some of these things, but, you know, what a great attitude. So let me ask Peggy really quick. Peggy, um, so far as like the paperwork for Chapter 13 and the length of the process to get it set up, you know, what was that like in this situation?
Well, in the normal situation, when we're putting together paperwork for a Chapter 13, the process was really is we meet with the client, get the story, because we need to know why our clients are here. It's hard enough to pick up the phone, much less show up and talk to a bankruptcy attorney. As I tell my clients, nobody ever wants to see me. And I don't take that personally, but nobody wants to see a bankruptcy attorney. But we're here to help you and make the process as easy as possible. So we meet with our clients, we hear their story, find out why they're here, what's going on with their life, put a plan of action together with the client on how we're going to solve the problems. So that's the initial meeting. At the end of that meeting, we do give the clients a little bit of homework, which Mary was very, very good at getting all the documents together for Mitch, which really isn't that much in the Chapter 13. It's very easy. We just need verification of income and some tax returns. And then we put the paperwork together, and we meet with the client one more time to review all the paperwork, make sure everything's true and accurate, that we have everybody included, all their creditors. We pull the major for our clients to make it a little easier on them. We don't need them, you know, collecting their bills and everything. And then we file it with the court. So it's a pretty quick and easy process. It takes probably about a week. Mitch's case, it might have been a little bit longer because we did have to meet, and because of the, you know, his physical and mental challenges that we were having at that time, we spent a little bit more time making sure he understood the entire process, because we want to make sure our clients understand what they're doing and why we're doing the things we're doing. And, you know, I don't want to say I held Mitch's hand, but we did. We walked you through it a little bit to make sure that's what occurred. And so you understand the process.
I mean, that's what I love too, is that it's not like, you know, just, hey, take a number, every client is the same. You know, and certainly the process is similar for every person, but every person's situation is different and every person's needs are different. And you can really see how in this case, you know, you took your time and helped Mitch out where, you know, he needed help in places that some people don't need help in, and I'm sure he didn't need help in places that other people do need help in. So, but you were able to really tailor your approach to this particular situation, which is great. And what I'm hearing and what I love is that, you know, you always talk about, hey, you know, bankruptcy is not a negative thing. It's actually a fresh start for people who are in a terrible situation, stressed out for years, and, you know, it takes a toll on you. And I'm hearing that there was a lot of relief and that there's light at the end of the tunnel and you have a new life planned. And, you know, I'm going to be with your family in Florida and everything. So, so you would say, would you say it was a, you know, really just like one of the best decisions for you, Mitch?
It was a game changer. And Peggy hit another point on the head. Every time she gets on this video, it rings a bell. Going to see the dentist for most people is like the last thing that they, even though today's technology is a little bit different, a lot of people don't want to go see the dentist. And so I can totally understand when Peggy says people really don't want to come and see you and you don't take it personal, because it's not personal. It is personal the way you handled it, because you handled it with kid gloves. You're very, very caring. And that's something that some people can read in other people. And as screwed up as my head was, I know my wife read it right and then explained it to me later. And then, you know, I could tell by the feel. It's an aura. It's just something that I guess even if your brain is half working, you still you still can feel, yeah, that sense of safety and comfort, because that's what Peggy did. Because there's another thing I screwed up on too, the payment, the first payment. But I didn't realize I had to send, and she told Mary too, but Mary wanted me to start taking charge of some things. So, I didn't make the payment directly to the trustee. I did the first one, and I thought, okay, I did one. Now it's going to come out electronic fund transfer. Nope. No, all I had to do was send another 200, and I could have discharged maybe a month early. But, Peggy was cool about that. She had her team get the whole thing postponed a month so that I could make that $200 payment to the trustee's office directly in Chicago. And I did that. And then we went back to court. They adjourned it, and I went back to court, and the clock started ticking at that point, which is the end game. And that's the objective of this. But now, if I was ever able, which is never going to happen, to go back into the lending business, I would have more empathy than ever. And I had a lot to begin with because we established a brand and a name. But now it's like, wow, these poor people, thank God we were kind to them. That they were as lucky as we were to have us, as I am to have Peggy. And for real, I mean, she really did the job. And not one time, I must have called that office over the last 3 years. I'll bet you I called 20 times over with questions. Because when you're home, the dots start connecting again. There's even more to think of. And I would call a lot, to the point of where I apologized. I'm sorry to be your greatest pest. But in hindsight, now it looks to me like that was like received with welcome open arms. It was always done. I was always called back. I was always answered. I walked through, like you said, you held my hand through this. And that's what it takes, even for someone that halfway understands the process. Right. Not completely, but I've got a real good idea now as to how it works. And it does work for you if you work within the system and if you have the proper representation. That's the whole key to this thing. In a nutshell, I was still doing what I was doing for a livelihood. There would be a line at Peggy's door.
We got to get you back to work, Mitch.
I loved what I did. I do. I started, like I said, at a credit union in 1975. My dad happened to be the treasury manager of 5 branches. So, it's kind of been born into my heritage, my upbringing. So I understand finance, and even that started coming back to me mentally. The neuroreceptors started connecting in other ways, because I've really had a lot of teachings from the doctors as to how this stuff works. But I just, to summarize what I feel, is I feel a great sense of relief, and I see an end game and a way out now that makes sense to where I can get from here to where I want to go. And hopefully, and I'm sure it will, everything will work smooth and I get that discharge.
You will.
I just want to ask Peggy, did we, is there anything about the case that, we missed or that you think might help someone else that's considering getting a Chapter 13 or just bankruptcy in general?
Not really. I think we hit all the high points, and Mitch, you did amazing. I think you have a career in, broadcasting or something.
Absolutely. You're very articulate, Mitch, about your feelings and about the, the order of events. And I think that your story is going to help a lot of people because, like you said, sometimes people are embarrassed, but there's really no reason to be embarrassed about something like this. If it helps your family and it gets you a fresh start, and you're feeling miserable for quite a while and there's no way out, well, there is a way out, and it's not always for everyone, but when it works out, it usually works out wonderful. So I want to thank you so much for coming on and taking the time to talk to us today, and I'm so excited for your future and the things that you have coming up. I just think it's wonderful.
Well, I appreciate that, and I want everybody in that office to know what a stellar job that they did with keeping me screwed to the ground the way I
Well,
not
thank,
going completely off the chart because
thank you, Mitch.
it's stressful.
That is so sweet, and I appreciate all the good words this morning and the sweet notes you always send. Every time Mitch sends anything to the office, any paperwork we need, he always attaches a little note and thanks everybody and thanks the entire team. And your most recent note, I made sure to share with everybody. It was very nice. Thank you.
Well, you're
So just the last thing is that you would you recommend HS&A for anyone else considering it?
Absolutely. Like I said, if I was still in the seat, financing and helping people reestablish themselves, I'd have been able to put a line at her door because of the fact that of the way I could personally say with my wife next to me as my assistant that, yeah, if you get the right attorney, and that's only if you get the right attorney, then you're good to go. Otherwise, you don't know. It's a crapshoot. I didn't know Peggy. I didn't know anybody that knew Peggy. I knew that Larry was in the car business, and he's good. He was very, not persistent, just diligent. He was diligent. And I thank you all, like I do in all those notes, because I mean it. It's genuine. I appreciate what you've done. A new lease on life is what it's like. And I feel I can go on. I plan on, like my grandmother's, every end of her story was when she'd tell me stories as a kid. They all went to the seashore. Well, that's where I'm trying to go. And now I think I can do it.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us today. And Peggy, thanks for taking the time. Do you need to say anything else to Mitch before we?
No,
Mitch,
I think we're good.
Mitch,
and I know Jennifer's following up on that last thing, Mitch, so she'll be in contact with you too.
I know she will. I have 100% confidence. Thank you, Peggy.
Thanks again, Mitch. It's really appreciated.
Oh, you know what? Vice versa. If the scale was the scale of blind justice of who helped who, here's you.
Thank you.
So thank you, and Tim, Larry, Jennifer, everybody there, but especially for your work. You've done a fine job. Thank you.
Thank you.
all right, have a good day, Mitch. Thank you so much.